Hello, my name is Jessica Bryan, and I'll be presenting on the Cognitivism learning theory. In this presentation, you can expect to learn about the history and background of the cognitive learning theory. You will also learn how memory becomes knowledge, how learning occurs, and how one becomes motivated to learn. Additionally, you will understand the implications for teaching or ways to apply this theory in the classroom, as well as formative assessment. Cognitive learning focuses on learning as a mental process. It focuses on how information is received, organized, stored, and retrieved by the mind. Cognitivism is like behavioristic models because learning occurs from experimentation and direct observation. However, it is specific in its own because it does not place emphasis on the behavior observed, but instead focuses on abstract thinking and application to real-world scenarios. Unlike other theories, cognitivism is not centered on cause and effect and is unique and based on previous experiences. Jean Piaget was a pioneer in cognitive learning development. He was a Swiss developmental psychologist who studied childhood psychology in the early 20th century. He formed the idea that learning is a developmental process in which the learner creates knowledge rather than learning directly from the teacher. Piaget believed that in order for one to process the information being presented, the ability is directly related to the cognitive structure. He viewed thinking as the ability to reason, connect ideas, and solve problems. According to his model, learning from the childhood development to adulthood begins with the infant and completes 4 stages before one can accomplish logical, thorough processes that characterize adult learning. In the sensorimeter stage, language is believed to be tied with actions, and actual learning is rooted in the senses and in manipulation. Once passing into the pre-operational stage, the child uses symbols and images in addition to actions and cognitive processes, but objects are understood in terms of single methods of classifications. For example, size. Advancing to the concrete operational stage allows the child to think in terms of logical operations or rules, such as equivalence and serializations. An example, being able to group objects in a series by size. In the final stage, logical operations moves beyond concrete realities to abstract possibilities that may be proposed and evaluated. According to Phillips in 2015, specific teaching methods based on cognitive learning theory includes the use of problem-solving, reciprocal teaching, and scaffolding. It is actively constructed. Learning occurs in an active process where information is stored in memory in an organized, meaningful manner to the learner. Prior knowledge is used to establish a baseline and provide identification of similarities and differences of information being presented. Specific instruction, real-world events, and application trigger certain responses, but the learner must believe and understand that knowledge before he can activate it to form a response. Memory is developed by the brain's mental process to absorb and retain information through the idea of schemas. Schemas are categories of knowledge that help the learner interpret and understand what is being presented. They describe and utilize the mental and physical actions involved in understanding and knowing. As experiences happen, new information is processed, stored, and used to modify existing information. The learner will interpret the experiences and information based on his or her extent of knowledge and his or her stage of cognitive development. These factors help organize the experience and encourage transformation and development of new information. Learning is an internal and active mental process that increases the mental capacity and one's skills in order to learn, and it involves the reorganization of experiences in order to make sense of the stimuli from the environment. It focuses on the realization of the learner's capabilities and his or her educational level, which makes the process more meaningful to the learner. Piaget believed that the human brain was programmed to bring equilibrium or balance in learning through 2 processes known as assimilation and accommodation. Piaget perceived assimilation to be the process in which humans receive and adapt to new information and build upon that stored knowledge. Accommodation is the process of changing existing schema after a new experience in learning, making it work, and developing a stronger knowledge base. This is very important because it is here that the human learner will continue to interpret, add, and apply new knowledge. Examples of ways the educator can provide learning through this type of experience would be hands-on, active type of environments with trial and error, visual aids, and real-life situation application, such as in case studies. In cognitivism, the learner is independent and influenced by multiple goals set by the individual himself. Learners see motivation as intrinsic factors in cognitivism, such as self-engagement and self-persistence. According to the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, the learner's intentions affect the number of efforts and application of one's abilities, skills, and knowledge. The learner must want to learn and understand the importance of what is being required of them. The learning process occurs with each individual student at different rates. According to Yilmaz, the following implications for learning should be considered. The use of active learning gets the learner involved in his or her learning processes. Metacognitive training allows for self-planning, learner monitoring, and revision of techniques that may not work for certain learners. Elimination of redundancy is important because when there is repetitive information in text and diagrams, the learning experience can be decreased because the learner gets focused on the repetition and it can be a distraction of what is being presented. The learning environment should provide an organized structure. The delivery of content should be based on the learner's needs and recognize limitations of short-term memory. The educator or presenter should use outlines of content or chunk the information together, allowing the learner to categorize and analyze the information himself. Creating a relevant learning environment assists the learner to understand the material that is being presented and encourage the application in scenarios outside of the text. It is also very important to place emphasis on organization. If content is sporadic and the environment is uneasy, ultimate processing for the learner may fail. Formative learning assessments occur throughout a lesson or module and provide feedback to the learner. Formative evaluations are meant to be constructive and beneficial. The teacher may use a variety of methods and at any given time throughout the given lesson or topic to assess the student's learning, provide feedback, address learning needs, and change or add new instruction based on the results of the learner's needs. Examples of formative assessments commonly used in cognitivism include muddiest points, gaming, and unfolding case studies because of the method of delivery and feedback for the learner and educator. The theory of cognitivism asks and encourages learners to look at thinking and mental processes. These resources are good examples because they allow the learner to take control of his learning, recognize where there may be gaps or errors in the information processing, and develop new ways to receive the information that is being presented. Muddiest point is a quick technique that allows students to take control and define their learning gaps and needs. Educators use this type of formative assessment to encourage the learner to take a few minutes to write down the most confusing or difficult part of the lesson, lecture, or reading assignment. This is also twofold in the benefits as it allows the educator to check for understanding and application and determine if further instruction or clarification is needed. It also provides students with the opportunity to increase their own awareness of their learning, allowing them to determine if further learning is needed. Gaming, such as Socrative and Kahoot, utilizes discussion, polling, and it quizzes students and provides students and educators the opportunity to evaluate learning needs. Unfolding case studies are commonly used in nursing education and commonly used in my courses. It is a form of formative assessments that allow the instructors to assess the learner's application of knowledge. It can encourage the learner's active engagement in personal instruction or online instruction and provide for written responses that encourage the instructor's feedback to produce an enhanced learning database. These are the many references used throughout the presentation. Some additional are included on the reference list, though may not be used specifically on the slides, but they reviewed and proposed ideas of content.